Welcome to Reading Between the Lines. I'm Nathan here at St. Raphael, and when I was younger, I went to a couple concerts and I would see these bands, and I wished that I was someone who had a backstage pass. I wish that I was one of those people that could hang out with the musicians, with the band, and just get to know them beyond just seeing them in concert, right? I still feel this way about actors, right? There's a lot of actors I see in movies or TV shows, and I think it'd just be so cool to hang out with Hugh Jackman or Chris Hemsworth. I don't know why those are both people in Marvel, but I think it'd be super cool to have a drink or get some food with any one of those actors and just talk with them beyond seeing them as a character in their TV show, in their movie, and really just get to know them. Jesus is kind of like that in the gospel this week. So he's just done the fishes and loaves. He's just multiplied the food and fed all these thousands of people, and they're loving him for it. He did this huge thing, this huge production, and they're ready to he's full celebrity status, right? And he knows that, and so he leaves, right? That's not what he came for. That's not what he's about. So he goes, and the people that go with him are the people that have that backstage pass. They're the disciples, the apostles, the people that are in his inner circle. And they're the ones that are really getting to know Jesus. But in the gospel, he scares them 2 times. The first time he scares the apostles, it's because they're in a boat and a huge storm comes and they're really afraid because he's just sleeping. They know he can do all sorts of things, but he's just sleeping. He's not even aware that there's a storm. And they're like, what the heck? They're very afraid. The second time he scares them is when he wakes up and he tells the storm to stop and it just stops. So imagine you're in a car with someone who's driving and he falls asleep at the wheel and the car starts going faster and faster and faster and it's going right for the wall of a building. That would be very scary. Maybe that's something like what they felt. And then imagine that the driver wakes up and instead of steering the car away from the building, just tells the building to move, and the building gets out of the way. Yeah, that would be a whole different level of scary, because who is this guy that tells buildings to move and they do, right? So who is this guy that tells the storm, the wind, the rain to stop, and it just does? So one of the things that the reading this week is calling us to is for us to recognize that the person that we say we follow, the person that we come to Mass for, right? Jesus Christ isn't just some guy, right? He wasn't just some person who did some nice things and said some nice things. He's God. He is the King of the universe, the Lord of everything, and there is nothing that he can't do. So the Gospels invite us to see Jesus for who he really is. And we can only do that if we're in that inner circle, if we have that backstage pass and we get close enough with him to really develop a relationship with him. Now, I don't know who you are. I don't know who watches these videos. You might be a teenager in high school. You might be in college. You might not be in school at all. You have a job. Maybe you're a parent or a grandparent. I don't know. But what I do know is that all of us go through times in life where we are scared, where we are terrified. Something is not going right, and sometimes things are going horribly wrong. Maybe you fail a test and you're terrified of what your parents are going to do. Maybe you failed a class. Maybe you got fired from your job. Maybe you got sick, or someone that you love gets really sick. Maybe someone that you love and depend on dies. Whatever's going on, there's times in our lives where we do not know what we're going to do, where we don't know what's going to happen, and we are terrified. And in those times, it can be really hard for us to see Jesus. Like the apostles on the boat, Jesus might seem asleep to us, like he's not doing anything, like he doesn't care, like he's far off and not even aware of what's going on in our lives. A few years ago, my dad had kidney stones. I was in my early 20s. I was living with him at the time, and one day, he just started doubling over. He doubled over. He was making all these groaning sounds. He was in a lot of pain, and he couldn't even tell me or talk or anything. And I knew I had to get him to the hospital, so I helped him get into the car, and we drove to the hospital. Now, during this whole time that he was in so much pain, I was scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how serious this was, but I knew that I needed to remain really calm, and that I needed to remain really focused and really clear about what needed to be done, because I needed to help him. I needed to be a certain way to help him through this thing that was really hard for him. And so even though I was scared and I didn't know what was going to happen, I was calm and still and quiet and focused. And we got to the hospital and they took care of him and things were okay. I think this is what Jesus does with us sometimes, especially when we're losing it, when we're scared, when we don't know what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and what's going to happen. Especially in those times, I think Jesus is very calm and very still and very focused on helping us and being there with us and being the thing that we need him to be. But to us, it can seem like he's just not doing anything. So I think the readings this week are reminding us who Jesus is, that Jesus is God, and that there is nothing too big for him to handle, nothing that he's not aware of. But it also invites us to be there with the backstage pass so we can be close to him. To not just be someone who watches him from afar, who sees or hears about the things that he does, but to be right there with Jesus, with God, with the Lord of the universe, so that we can be open to those ways that he wants to help us in those times in our lives that are the hardest. So where are you? Are you backstage with Jesus? Are you in the car with Jesus? Are you developing that kind of relationship that reminds you of who he really is and what he can do and what he wants to do with you and for you? Because he wants you to know that he has your back, no matter what happens. God bless you. Take care. See you next time.
We hope you like this video. Please click subscribe and ring the bell to be notified every time we post something new for you. God bless.